Welcome to the Lida Citroën podcast, your space to grow your influence and elevate your personal brand. In each episode, you'll hear inspiring stories, expert insights, and practical strategies to help you stand out, lift up others, and leave your mark on your team, your community, or the world. If you're ready to make your voice heard, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Everyone has a personal brand, by design or by default. When I first made that statement, a lot of people asked me, what does that mean? I have a personal brand, even if I'm not doing anything proactively. And it really started a conversation around this idea that who you are and how you show up tells other people how to value you. And I'm really excited to talk about that topic and more today on the Lida Citroën podcast. Welcome. I am so happy you're here. If this is your first time listening, welcome to the conversation. I hope you'll go back and listen to some previous conversations because all of the topics that we put on this platform are designed to help you, to serve you, and help you build your influence, grow your value, and create meaning and career opportunities that align with who you are and what you want. If you've been with us before and you've subscribed, thank you. We really like those subscriptions. We love to see comments, so please do that. And welcome back to the conversation. We're so happy you're here. Today we're talking about personal branding, and it's a topic that I've been involved with for quite a long time. I'm going to date myself here, but in 2008, when I started my company and I started going from the career focus of helping companies and products and services build their brand into the conversation of helping people, individuals, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, professionals, executives around the world build their brand. In 2008, nobody knew what personal branding was. I was constantly having to explain, wait, you mean the thing where we, like brand cattle? Are you talking about like a Nike swoosh? Like nobody knew what I was talking about. And I was always frustrated with this idea that it made perfect sense to me that your brand is who you are and how you show up, but nobody else knew the terminology. So actually what I did at the time is I said, so what is the need in the market and can personal branding solve for that? And the need in the market in 2008 was people were panicked, especially here in the US. Our economy was falling apart. People were desperately trying to hold on to their jobs or find a job or get a better job. And so there was this heightened sense of, how do I make myself relevant? Why don't the right people know who I am? And how do I position myself with intention and clarity and confidence so that I can capture those opportunities that I really want? And luckily, those are solved with personal branding. So I actually kind of used that language to back into this now very popular topic of personal branding. I've written 7 books on the topic. I have a TED Talk. I have LinkedIn learning courses. I speak all over the world and coach leaders in all different countries now because everybody wants to understand how to build their brand. And I love that. I love that the momentum now has moved away from, if I just do good work and I show up on time and I don't cause problems, then I will get rewarded with opportunity. We've moved away from that. And now it is up to you and up to me to position ourselves with intention, confidence, and clarity to be able to be seen by the right people at the right time for the right opportunity. So we're going to talk about personal branding today because your personal brand gets you influence. Your personal brand goes before you. Your personal brand shows up in conversations you're not even part of. And your influence then has a place to take root. If you don't have a strong personal brand or a clear personal brand, it's really hard to trust you, understand you, and see you. In my book, The New Rules of Influence, I should have it next to me. Let me get it out of my drawer. The New Rules of Influence. If you're watching me on YouTube, sorry about that. I talk about the importance of having a brand. And I say designing and living your personal brand gives you the platform and criteria for leveraging your voice and your influence. Your personal brand strategy becomes the filter through which every decision, every opportunity, every relationship gets evaluated. And I'm going to unpack that for you in just a moment. So let's go to the beginning. What is a personal brand? Maybe you're still not clear. You've heard the term over and over, and you're still not clear on what that means. Well, your personal brand is how you show up. It's how you behave. It's how you speak. It's how you carry yourself. It's how you form relationships and connections with the right people. All of those touch points are things you've probably been doing, right? You've been going to work, you've been networking, you've been connecting with people on LinkedIn, you've been introducing yourself verbally or by email. You've been doing all of these things that tell people something about you. That's how you've built your personal brand. And your personal brand, the foundation of your personal brand, like the place that everything sits on, is your values. So think about building a house. The foundation of the house is what keeps the house level. It's what keeps the house safe. It's what makes the framing and the drywall and the roof and everything else stable, is the foundation. It's the base, it's the bottom, and the foundation has to be rooted in values. In episode 14, which is a whole program I did about visibility, how to grow your visibility, even if you would rather hide, we talked about how to unpack your values. And I encourage you to go and listen to that episode, because the values exercise that I walked you through in that episode really is how you build this foundation of your personal brand. You have to know what you stand for. And what you stand for may or may not be what your parents stood for and believed in, or what your partner or spouse believes in, or what your community or culture tells you you should believe in. Your values are yours, and they are unique and beautiful and so important to who you are, because that's how you're evaluating everything. Does this feel right? Does that feel wrong? Is this good? Is this bad? All of that is rooted in your values. And in order to build a personal brand, you need to know what those values are, because everything will come from that. The next step, and I'm going through this kind of quickly, but I want to give you the framing here. The next step in building your brand is to understand what your brand today looks like. Even if you've never thought about this and you're midway through your career, or at the beginning of your career, or the end of your career, it doesn't matter. You have done things which have created perception in the mind of the people that are either valuing you or not. So, what is that perception? How do they view you? Do they see you as memorable? Do they know where you're most confident? Do they know where you're at your best? Do they know what kind of opportunities and direction you're pursuing? When you assess current brand, in my work, we call that perception mapping, and I have tools that I use for that. Um, it's really to understand baseline, right? Where are we starting from in building this brand? And you can do that for yourself. You can ask people, what do you think my brand is? How would you describe me? All the questions I've been throwing out in our few minutes already together, you can ask people that and see what they say. And when they respond, if they trust you enough to be honest, then you say thank you, because you may disagree with what they come back with. You may think they're completely incorrect. You might want to argue or make excuses, but that isn't the point. The point is to understand how they perceive you. And a lot of times perception is based on wrong information or incomplete information. That's a fact of perception. But do people know who you are and what you stand for? If they do, fabulous. If they don't, you've got some work to do. Either case, you need a strategy to move forward, because you haven't been thinking about this. So, current brand helps us assess where we're starting from. The real power, the magic of personal branding, and the most difficult part is, what do you want? What do you want your personal brand to be? How do you want your reputation, which is an outgrowth of your personal brand? What do you want your reputation to be? How do you want people to feel about you? What do you want them to believe is true about you? What makes you memorable? What makes you unique? And what would you like to be remembered for? When I do this exercise in workshops, it's always a kind of a difficult part of the conversation because nobody likes to think about their legacy, right? We want blocking and tackling. We want action steps. We want things we can do right now. And I get that. But your personal brand isn't job specific. It isn't age specific. It's your life specific. So I would encourage you, if you're listening, to think about the end, right? The end of your career or even the end of your life. What do you want to be remembered for? What difference did you make? What impact did you have? What meaning did you create? What influence did you build? And how did you serve? It's a simple question, but it's not an easy question. And take the first answer that's coming top of mind and put that off to the side and think about it some more. And then think about it when you're quiet, driving home or on the train or sitting in a park or just having a moment to reflect. What do you want us to remember about you? How did you make us feel? What did we experience being around you? What was that like? You can design this. And I do this exercise with every client. And we take a lot of time to unpack this. But I remember when I first started doing it, I thought, because a lot of my clients were running big companies or big enterprises, I thought they would say things like, I want to be remembered for the share, the value of the stock when we, went public, or I want to be remembered for all the people I hired and all the buildings that we built. I thought they were going to point to more superficial things. But what all of these leaders told me is, I want to be remembered as a good dad or someone who was always there when people needed me. Or I want to be remembered for my empathy, my sound judgment, my loyalty, these really personal, emotional qualities. And now I've seen that's pretty universal. If you really are answering the question right, then you're moving off of your job description, you're moving off of what you get paid for, and you're thinking about how you're going to live your life as a person, wherever you are in the world, whether you're in Indiana or India, it doesn't matter. How are you going to show up in this world, and how do you want to be remembered? It is literally a game-changing question. And I know we're going through it kind of quickly. And if you want to pause this podcast and think about it for a while, I strongly encourage you to do that. Or make a note and go back to it, because this is where you get control. You get control over everything that comes from the time you've resolved this forward. When you have a vision of where you're going, you have direction, you have a plan, and you know which way to go. Do you remember when in the story of Alice in Wonderland, a very famous story here, and I know in the US, and I know it's been translated, Alice comes to a fork in the road. And in a tree at the fork in the road sits a Cheshire cat. And she says to the Cheshire cat, well, which way do I go? And he said, well, that depends on where you're headed. And she said, I don't really know. And his response is, then it doesn't matter what road you take. When you know where you're headed, when you know the kind of person that you want to be remembered as, the way you want people to experience you, the feelings that you want them to have for you, when you are clear about that, then you're able to evaluate opportunities, decisions, choices, relationships everything through that filter. Should you connect with that person on LinkedIn? Should you say yes to that opportunity to present the team results? Should you challenge that person on your team when no one else is challenging them? Everything becomes filtered through that. And if it isn't a yes, then it's likely not a good opportunity for you. You will turn down jobs because of your sense of where you're headed. You will end relationships because of where you're headed. And that's not wrong. It's not easy, it's difficult, but it's not wrong because you are reinforcing and getting really clear about who you are and what you want. Now, the other part of personal branding is that it's not just about you. Your personal brand has to be relevant and compelling and interesting to a certain group of people. And these people are who we call your target audience. Your target audience are the groups, communities, or individuals who hold opportunities that you want. So, one of my target audiences might be learning and development professionals in companies who hire speakers, because these are people who could hire me to come in and speak on behalf of my expertise to their team. Your target audience might be your boss or someone on your team who holds a lot of influence with other decision makers, or a vendor who could work with you to make sure that supply chain works better. Your target audience can be different people, and you can have different target audiences. But your target audience isn't everyone. It's not everyone in the world, because the second you tell me, I want to be relevant and interesting and compelling and attractive to every person in the world, the only way to do that is to water your value down so much that it kind of could go in any direction. And that's not the point. So you're going to think about the people that you want to connect with, the people who need to see your value and understand it logically and emotionally in order to give you the opportunities that you want. That's the power of personal branding. That's the foundation. And I love exploring that because I think a lot of people who are teaching personal branding are jumping into, well, let's look at what your LinkedIn profile should look like. Let's look at what your outfits, your wardrobe should look like, or how you carry yourself, or your level of confidence. And none of those things can be made clear if you don't have the foundation. Going back to my analogy of a house, it would be like picking out the furniture and the curtains before you've built the house, right? I don't know what size couch I need or how many blinds or shades I need over the windows because I haven't built the house yet. I don't even have a vision of what the house is going to look like. So we built the house. We have a vision of the house before we start marketing ourselves. And marketing your brand includes your online, your digital footprint. It just has to today because our social capital, our digital capital online is part of how people are going to find us. It's what they're going to use to quickly initially make decisions about us. Does this person look credible? Do they look friendly? Do they write the way that is appealing to me? All of that is assessed through our digital footprint. But it's also assessed through our network. Do you know the right people? Do the right people know you? You might be so heads down that you're just focused on your work and your immediate team. But to grow your value to the organization, it would help to know other teams or people in other departments cross-functionally. So your network is a big part of it. And then your narrative, which, I love the topic of narrative because narrative is story. How do you tell your story? When someone says, Lida, tell us about you, or introduce yourself to the group, right? It might be in an interview. It might be in a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting where everybody's going around and introducing themselves. How are you telling your story? What does your elevator pitch look like? What's your origin story? I talk about origin story in the new rules of influence because your origin is where you started. It's where this idea, this belief, this strategy, this vision came from. And everybody has an origin story. But all of that gets wrapped up in how you talk about yourself, because the power of narrative is that what you tell me about you is what I'm going to use to tell other people about you. So if you're talking to me and you're not clear or focused, or you're not giving me anything that really feels valuable, then if somebody asks me about you, that's all I have to go off of. Make sure that your narrative online and in person is aligned with your desired brand, right? How you want to be known. The content that you talk about, what topics are you knowledgeable about? Are you trying to be knowledgeable about everything? Because that doesn't work. So, what are the topics you're knowledgeable? Maybe a subject matter expert. And how is that showing up online and in person in how you're communicating? Then the last two pillars of marketing our brand kind of go together. It's your presence and your style. So, do you carry yourself as someone with confidence? Do you project confidence? Do you have good body language? Is your style consistent with all these other touch points? And the beauty of all this, the beauty, my friends, is that none of it has to be perfect. It just has to be consistent. Consistency is how we build our reputation. Consistency is how we have a legacy that is aligned with our values and how we want to be known in this world. That's consistency. It's not perfection. We can't be perfect. We're human beings. So all of that is the marketing part. And the marketing is made so much easier when you've done the personal branding, when you have the foundation. You have the foundation, you have the walls, you have the floors. Now you can start decorating. Now you can start picking out the furniture. So I know that's a lot. And I teach this in short workshops and very long workshops. So we went through it a little quickly. But the reason it matters so much to building your influence is because your personal brand gives you influence. I remember when I was moving a lot of my conversation to influence, and people said, does that mean you're sort of bailing on personal branding? And I've been known for personal branding since 2008. And I said, oh gosh, no. One of the rules in the new rules of influence is to have a brand, because you don't build a personal brand so it sits on a shelf, right? You build a personal brand so that when you're in a room, people understand your vision, that they give you time to speak, that they see you, that they trust that what you say matches what they know to be true about you. And all of that is influence. So your personal brand gives you influence. It's the congruity of the two. And again, in New Rules of Influence, actually on page 155, if you're reading along, your ability to build and then consistently promote your brand empowers you to influence others and to share your purpose, mission, passion, and goals with those who need what you're offering. That's pretty powerful if you think about the last part of that statement, what you're offering. Not everyone is going to get you. Not everyone is going to want what you have to offer. Your job is to know who the right people are and make sure that you're seen and heard consistently in front of those people. Because when they do, they will adopt your ideas. They will follow you and your leadership and your vision. They will advocate for you even when you're not in the room. That is maybe one of the coolest parts of personal branding, really done right. And then this outgrowth of influence is people will talk about you when you're not in the room and sell your value. Right. So let's say you're trying to get promoted at work. The people that you have targeted, your target audience, when they know who you are, what you stand for, and what your offer is, they're having conversations about who should take on that new team, or who should run that division, or who should now be promoted. You're not even in the conversation making a case for yourself. The right people are in that conversation, and they're making the argument that it should be you. How cool is that? How cool is that?
Your voice matters. My new book, The New Rules of Influence, shows you how to build long-lasting impact with authenticity, no tie or title required. Get your copy of the book today and start owning your voice.
So, a question that I hear often when I talk about personal branding is it feels very self-centered. It feels like I need to be large and in charge and loud, and I need to, be all over LinkedIn and let everybody know, and I be an influencer. Personal branding is not self-centered; it's service-centered. It is very much centered on the value you can offer other people. And that means when you're clear on who you are, then you're clear on your audience. You just put those two together. It doesn't mean also that you're changing who you are to meet the situation. So you don't become different people just because this audience might prefer this or this boss might like you this way. I think we've all tried that. I know I did for many years of my corporate career. I tried to be everybody that they wanted me to be. And as a Gemini, I probably had a leg up because people say I have multiple personalities because of my being born in June, but that's a side note. I think I was just so desperate to be accepted and liked and valued that if they wanted me to be stronger, I was stronger. If they needed me to be softer, I was softer. If they needed me to speak up, I spoke up. If they wanted me to sit quiet, I sat quiet. Whatever direction I was given, I adapted to because I thought that's what it took to be seen, to be advanced, to grow. And I was so wrong. I was so wrong because I just remember I would come home at night and the first thing I would do would be just to take off my makeup, take off, my clothes, put on comfortable clothes, put my hair in a ponytail, and take a deep breath. And it wasn't because the clothes were uncomfortable. It was because I wanted to go back to being me. And me wasn't this persona that I pretended to be all day long. The one that they asked me to be, the one that they told me was going to be the secret to my success. And it was exhausting. It was so exhausting. And I was so confused by who really was I. And I work with a lot of individuals today where when we start unpacking and peeling all this back, they say the same thing to me. You're asking me questions. I don't even know who I am. If we take away all the packaging, then how do I even figure out who I am? And it is a very difficult, albeit liberating and empowering experience. But it is not sustainable or enjoyable to be someone else every day because you think that's what people need from you. When I figured out who I was, when I got clear about how to show up, I have more fun. There's so much more joy in my life, in my work. I attract people who celebrate that side of me that is real and genuine. And it's easier to be myself. I'm a little quirky. I enjoy that. Some of my jokes, are a little bit weird and people don't get them, and that's okay. Um, but I started hearing things from people like they were giving me feedback that I was, first of all, very intelligent, very smart, very knowledgeable on my topic. And they would say things like warm and compassionate and approachable. Those were never words I'd heard before. Those were never words described to me when I was in my corporate world, in my career, trying to be what everybody wanted me to be, because that wasn't what they were telling me to be. So I share all this with you because what you find underneath, it is the soft underbelly. It is the raw stuff. It's the scary stuff because now it's real. And if I share my real side and people reject me, that hurts more. I could rationalize rejection before because I was just doing what I thought they wanted me to do. So the rejection feels different, but the rewards are so much richer and so much more meaningful and so much more beautiful. So is it scary? Absolutely. Is it worth it? 100%. And I encourage you to reframe the way you think about self-promotion. Reframe the way you think about your career. It is about you, but it's not just about you. Who are you going to serve? How are you going to serve? How are you going to show people who you are to build community and connection? You don't have to be them to be able to relate to them. I have worked in communities I don't come from, and I don't try to sound like them. I don't profess to know everything about their experience, but I show up as myself. I show gratitude and generosity for their experience, what they have been through, what they are going through, what life is like for them. And I show up in such a genuine way that these communities have welcomed me in with such open arms. And I think it is just the most amazing thing in the world, because now my life has gotten richer and my career has gotten richer. So I ask you to get comfortable with the idea of standing out and drawing attention to yourself, being real, being vulnerable, being genuine, authentic, whatever word you want to use, letting people know who you are. They could hurt you, they could reject you, but they will either way. If that's in their heart, if that's in their nature, if that's how they are, then you being real isn't going to make that any different. So don't focus on them, focus on you. As you live your brand, it's an act of integrity. You live your brand by being so clear about what you're going to do with this precious time that we get on this planet, that you're selfish about it. You want it to mean something. In the book, I talk about, through the process of building and promoting your thoughtful personal brand, you can intentionally find and attract opportunities to share your voice, live with integrity, serve others, build your tribe and your impact in meaningful and measurable ways. This is possible. This is all possible. Wherever you are listening to this in the world, wherever you are in your career, wherever you are in your life, you can have confidence when you speak and know that the criteria that you have set for how you will speak and what you will speak about is driven through your personal brand. You will be able to say no. That could be sometimes for some of us the hardest word to say, because we want to say yes, we want to help, we want to show, we want to be doing. But saying no and having boundaries, that's prioritizing what's important over what isn't. And you'll have a lens and a filter to identify, is that a good relationship? Is that a good connection? Is that a good post to put on social media? Is that relationship or that job going to move me in the direction I want to go? I love this. Catherine Coate from Harvard Business School wrote, personal branding isn't a one-time project. It requires continually reassessing and adjusting to ensure you live and project your intended brand. It's not a one and done thing. That's why I say it's not something you build and put on a shelf. Your personal brand grows, it matures. So similar to your values don't dramatically change unless there's been a traumatic event. That can interrupt your values. But your brand grows and it matures and it evolves as you get more experience, more knowledge, more relationship, more information. Your thinking, your perspective, the way you want to be known might evolve into much more robust or even clearer ways. So I want to leave you with a few thoughts as I wrap up this conversation. And I invite you, if I've mentioned something and you want to learn more about it, or you'd like me to record a podcast episode talking more about that, please let me know in the comments, because your feedback Your input is what I use to design all these topics. But some closing thoughts about influence and personal branding with intention. Influence is about being understood and trusted by the people who matter the most. And that's not everyone. So if you post something from your heart on social media that really speaks to who you are and how you want to be known, and some troll, sitting in their mother's basement goes after you for it, that's not your target audience. Don't worry about them. Your target audience are the people that matter to you. And personal brand, your individual personal brand is what will build this long-term platform for you to lead, for you to serve, and for you to build a legacy that's aligned with what you want. Here's a reflection I have for you to think about. In addition to thinking about the aspects of personal branding that I pointed to today, ask yourself, is the way that you're showing up, the way that you're behaving at work, the way that you're interacting on social media, the way that you're making decisions, is all of that aligned with how you want to be known, how you want to be remembered, and the kind of influence you ultimately want to have? And not just today, but tomorrow and the next day and years after that. Things should be aligned. They should be consistent. That's when our personal brand has roots. That's when the house is finished and built and we can grow and change things out, but the house is solid. And that's where we operate from. I hope you've enjoyed today's conversation. Obviously, it's a topic I've spent, way too many years working on, but I love this topic because I see people when I teach this, I'll see them sit up taller in their chair and sort of relax their shoulders and just sort of melt into who they really are. And I've heard so many times from folks, this just made it easier for me to be myself. And it's like, yeah, that's the whole point. It's really hard to be someone else. Just be yourself. And I hope this has been valuable. I would love to hear from you if there was something that resonated. If this message really struck a chord with you, please share it. Share it with someone in your close network. Share it on social media. It really is that important, and it helps us all get better. So until I see you next time, from the bottom of my heart, I wish you health, happiness, and all good things.
Thanks for tuning in to the Lida Citroën podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow the show and leave a review. It helps more people discover these inspiring conversations. For more tools, insights, and resources, visit Lida360.com or connect with Lida on LinkedIn. Until next time, remember, your influence has the power to make a real difference.